Hi everyone, welcome to lecture 11 in which we're going to talk about green buildings and green cities. We're going to talk about what is a green building, how we can reach a zero energy building, the different approach to reduce the consumption and impact of a building, make a building more attracting for people, then moving towards cities and see what are the issues currently. I mean, at least one example of an issue of the cities before looking at towards urban planning and the idea of creating cities that are more friendly for the people, but friendly also for the environment. So all of that will be covered in this lecture. That should be about a couple of videos. And to start, a quick question, I'm asking you, what area of a room is the warmest? This should be the corner because it's always about 90 degrees. I know, bad joke. So bad that in fact even the penguins are dancing. Okay, so with today's lecture, we have two goals: looking at the techniques to make our buildings more eco-friendly and better for the people, and then looking at how we can do that with the cities. We can start with what makes a building green. What is a green building? If we look at this drawing, we can see that there are several ways to establish a green building. We need to make this building energy efficient, trying to consume too much energy that in fact tend to be impacting on the environment indirectly. We need this building to be also water efficient, to not use too much water and to be able to potentially have this kind of gray pipe that would be recycling a little bit of the water. We need also to use material that is non-toxic, because, well, it's bad for the people living inside of this building, and also it tends to have the toxicity of that material can be released in the surrounding, and then after also, usually it has come with some extraction that has been very bad for the environment. Ideally, you want this building to use local material, so you kind of avoiding to have material coming from far away and having this huge greenhouse gases emission, for example, that comes from the transportation. You want that building to be environmentally responsible in a way that it's fitting well with the environment, that again has less impact on the environment, and that is healthy for the people that are inside of that building. And once you have created that, you have a green building, which is also called a high performance building. And so with the example of UC Merced has been targeting building all of its different buildings green, being high performance building. And one way that UC Merced has pushed for that was to being certified, receiving the LEED certification of each of its construction. The LEED certification is in fact done once the building is built. You have people coming into that building. You have people coming into that building and reviewing all of the different aspects in terms of innovation, in terms of resources, impact such as water, energy, looking at the environmental quality, and different other conditions to establish, in fact, a rank of that building. The LEED certification is internationally recognized, and it's kind of the most used certification to establish if a building is ecological or not. And each of the UC Merced building has, in fact, a LEED certification, with usually the minimum being gold. There are three top rank. The third one is silver, the second one is gold, and the first one, the top of the top, is platinum, as you can see on this picture taken from, in fact, UC Merced. The idea with that is you creating buildings that are costing less money overall on the long term. Of course, to build it might cost some more money initially, but over the long term, those buildings are saving you money, they are healthy for the people living it, efficient in terms of working. And that's why UC Merced has, one of the mission of UC Merced's building was to be LEED certified. Let's quickly look at this video to explain the LEED certification.
LEED, or Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, is a green building certification program that recognizes best-in-class building strategies and practices across the globe. LEED promotes better buildings, places that complement our environment and enhance our communities, places that give people better, brighter, healthier spaces to live, work, and play. To receive LEED certification, projects pursue credits that earn points. Prerequisites and credits differ for each rating system. Teams choose the rating system that best fits their project. After the team completes the review process, the project is awarded a certification level based on the number of points earned. So, if you're serious about saving money, conserving energy, making better building material choices, and driving innovation, then LEED is the best choice for you. Ready to learn more? Visit usgbc.org/lead.
So leading towards green building is something that is maybe more popular nowadays. However, green buildings, there is nothing new about it. If we're looking at this example of the habitation created in Mesa Verde Cliff in Colorado that was happening a couple of 100 years ago, we can see, that of course those habitations are more rudimentary, more primitive in some way than our nowadays housing system and building system, but the people over there who've built those housing have had already the idea of how making the building, the housing fitting with the environment, and also providing the people who are occupying it a good life. We can figure out by looking at how they've been doing that a couple of major components. The first one is that we see that those housing is made up with the rocks from this cliff. It's what in fact we call the thermal mass. Because those buildings are made up of rocks, they keep the warmth that is being accumulated during summertime. They accumulate this warmth inside of the rocks, and during wintertime when it's cold, it's releasing it. And during summertime, it's releasing the cool temperature that has been absorbed during wintertime. So the rocks or thermal mass is always on the contrary phase of the temperature. And so when it's warm, it's releasing some freshness. When it's cold, it's releasing some warmth. And so that is one of the components that already we can observe from this example. Another component is the overhang. This overhang, the fact that you have a shade that happens above the habitation, as you can see, it's different depending on the season. I show you two pictures, one in fall, winter, and one in summer. You can see from the two pictures that during fall, the habitation, the housing, is exposed to the sun, receiving more sunlight when it's in fact colder outside. So the sunlight tends to warm up the inside of those housing. On the contrary, during summertime, thanks to the overhang, we do have more shade happening covering those habitations, and so it's cooling down the temperature of those housing. And this is also happening because these habitations are south facing. That means that they are taking into account the solar orientation to have, in fact, this shading effect that can happen during summertime, but not during wintertime. The light exposure will be greater in fall and winter than it will be during summertime. So those are knowledge that our ancestors already had before us, and nothing has been new about it. It's just at some point we starting creating building housing and buildings that didn't take into account those components anymore. And we need to go back to those components to make our buildings and housing more eco-friendly again. A quick note about this idea about orienting the house with the sun is what we call the sun angle. Is the fact that the sun is in fact moving differently throughout the season due to the orbit of the Earth around the sun. We don't have the same cycle of the sun above the sky all the time, the same during the season. And so what we can observe is during summertime, it's where we have the sun to be the higher in the sky, and during winter time to be the lowest, closer to the horizon. And so by creating a house that is mostly exposed toward the south, with some overhang, some protection on top of it to kind of protect the windows, during summertime, as we can see from this figure, the nice thing is the sunlight will not be able to penetrate the house because the overhang will reflect the sunlight. During winter time, however, because the sun is lower in elevation in the sky, most of the sunlight will be able to penetrate the windows because the overhang is not interfering with that. And by building the house oriented toward the south, we're benefiting from a full exposure of the sun that moves from east to the west as during all day long. And it's avoiding the north part, which is in fact the face that never receive a direct sunlight. So by just orienting your house toward the south and placing those overhangs, you naturally, passively play with natural components to warm up your house or cool down your house. Warm up your house during winter time when normally outside it's cold, but you're receiving more sunlight, so you can warm up the inside of your house naturally by this sunlight. And during summertime, you're receiving less sunlight when it's warm outside, and it's helping your house to keep and your building to keep fresh. So this is also what's said in this figure. Unfortunately, be careful. North-south are oriented this way on this figure, and the north is on the bottom part and the south is on the upper part. So there is there is a reverse orientation for this one. One last thing I would like to mention about it before ending this video and talking about light, it's in fact the use also of ventilation. So we mentioned that the sun is providing the heating. The sunlight is what's warming up the inside of your home by allowing the sunlight to come in. And so again, you can play with those overhang that will control the amount of sunlight that will penetrate between summer and winter time. If you use a thermal mass, which can be concrete, for example, you're also amplifying the cooling and warming up effect during the season. The thermal mass will be helping you to release warmth during wintertime and to release freshness during summertime. Additionally to that, you can play also with windows to move the air inside of your house, which is a passive way to potentially provide, in particular, cooling. You have a couple of examples of different cooling that can happen. Ventilation. Either you have a house that is only have windows only on one side, or maybe offices with only on one side windows. You can do a single side ventilation, which at least by opening two windows, you will allow for some circulation of air to happen and to drop the temperature of the house, of the room. You can do a cross ventilation. If your room has windows on both sides, that will allow for one side to receive fresh temperature and to remove the warm temperature on the other side. And in case you do have a second floor or you have windows higher on the ceiling, you can also play with the stack ventilation, where the cooler air will enter. That tend to be heavier, it will be closer to the ground, so the cooler air will enter from the ground and remove the heat that tend to accumulate in the top part of your building. One last thing that you can do, in particular that's working pretty well in the valleys, is what we call the night flushing. During daytime, when it's very warm outside, you're closing all your house to avoid as much as possible the heat from the outside to warm up your house. And during nighttime, when it's fresh, when it's cooler, you're opening all the windows of your house, or the majority of your windows of the house, to allow naturally the house to cool down without using AC. It seems to be very simple, but you may observe during nighttime around you, you will hear a lot of people using ACs instead of using this night flushing, which will cost less money and less energy and less impact on the environment. One final thing I would like to mention before ending up this video is the use of a heat pump, which is working as an AC system where you're using a coolant or a warming fluid. And so you will be able to either warm up the house or cool down the house through an exchange of fluid that will be warmed up in a coil or cool down in a coil. And you can also use the same system more passively with the ground. The ground works like a thermal mass. During summertime, you're sending your warm air or the warm water into the ground, and the ground will cool it down. And as it's coming back, it will start cooling down your house. During winter time, it's a contrary that happens. You're sending your cold or cool air into the ground, and it will be warmed up by the ground, and the air coming back will warm up your house. So those are ways, but tend to be expensive, and little by little I see that it's being implemented, but that has been something that we've known for a long time, in particular this one, but we haven't been using it enough in some way to make less impact on the environment. Let's take a break of this video and join me for video number 2, in which we're going to talk about how playing with light inside of a building to use less electricity.